Dear students of HSC first year, hope that you all are safe and sound at home with the grace of Almighty Allah. I'm Shaila Parvin, Assistant Professor of Department of English, Tongi Government College. Welcome you all to my class on conditional sentences. If you look at the syllabus of English second paper, you will find that this grammatical item, namely conditional sentences, is not included in your HSC syllabus as a separate grammatical item. But you have to answer right forms of verb or completing sentences in your exam. Again, for any other kind of creative writing, you have to use expressions or sentences from conditional sentences. So we need to know the use of conditional sentences, and my today's class is a little endeavor to let you know about the use of conditional sentences. Let us begin on today's class. Students, at first we need to know what is conditional sentence. Condition. The word condition means a kind of deal or a proviso for an action to take place. It means in order to make something happen, some prior conditions must be fulfilled. And conditional sentences are those sentences which say about what could happen. Notice, what could happen, what might have happened, and what we wish would happen. That means it says something about, conditional sentences say something about a situation which are least possible to happen or almost impossible to happen. In conditional sentences, the action is reliant on something else. They are used to express that the action in the main clause, that is the clause without if, can only take place if a certain condition, the clause with if, is fulfilled. Now the functions of conditional sentences. Conditional sentences deal with imagined situation where the actions are sometimes possible to happen, sometimes they are unlikely, and sometimes they are almost impossible to happen. A conditional sentence consists of two clauses, that means it has two parts. One clause beginning with if or unless is called the if clause, and it is the dependent clause. And the other clause is called the result clause. It is the main or the principal clause. The if clause is the clause that has the condition, and the result clause is the result or the consequence of the condition in the if clause. Now the structure of conditional sentences. As I have told you earlier that a conditional sentence has two parts. One part is called the if clause part, and the other part is called the main clause part. And in if clause part, there lies the condition of a sentence, and the main clause part, there lies the result of that condition. Let me clarify it with an example. On the screen, you see an example. If it rains tomorrow, I will not go to college. The red highlighted words, if it rains tomorrow, it is the if clause part, and here is the condition. That means if it rains, then I will not go to college, and my going to college is dependent on the action of the rain. If it rains, then I will not go, but if it doesn't rain, then I will obviously go to college. Students, in our previous slide, you saw that the if clause comes first in a sentence, and then comes the second clause or the main clause. But the order of these two clauses is not always fixed. It is flexible. We see that generally the if clause comes first in a sentence and the result clause comes later. But the result clause or the principal clause may also comes first in a sentence. If the if clause comes first, then there must be a comma in between the two clauses. Look at these two examples. If it rains, I will not attend the meeting. And the second example, I will not attend the meeting if it rains. The meaning of these two sentences are same, but the order of the clauses are different. In the first sentence, the if clause, that means if it rains, comes first, and you must have to put a comma after this clause. But in the second example, the main clause, that means I will not attend the meeting, comes first, and you don't need to put any comma in between these two clauses. So we can say that conditional sentences may appear in either of these two forms. That means the position of the clauses can be interchanged in a sentence. Now, types of conditional sentences. There are 4 types of conditional sentences according to the degree of probability that they express. Number 1 is zero conditional sentence. Number 2, first conditional sentence. It is also called probable conditional sentence. Number 3, second conditional sentence or improbable conditional sentence. Number 4, third conditional sentence. It is also called impossible conditional sentence. Each type of conditional sentence uses different tenses to show the differences in degree of probability. Now, zero conditional sentence. Students, you have to keep in mind that the use of zero conditional sentences is not so common in your exam, but it is good to know about it. Zero conditional sentences. In zero conditional sentences, the present tense is used in both the clauses. It is very important. That means in the case of if clause and in the case of main clause, in both the clauses, you have to use present indefinite tense. Zero conditional is used to express universal truth and also talk about habits and things that are always true, like scientific facts. Structure of zero conditional sentence is if plus present indefinite plus present indefinite, and you will get a clear idea from the example. Example 1, if you heat ice, it turns to water. Notice in the if clause, the tense is present indefinite, and also in the main clause, the tense is present indefinite. Number 2, I get tired if I work too much. Here, the main clause is comes first. I get tired, and the if clause, if I work too much. In both the cases, I have used present indefinite tense in zero conditional sentence. Now, first conditional sentence. It is also called probable conditional sentences, where the action depends on the condition is possible to happen. Notice the action here is possible to happen. The structure of a first conditional sentence is if plus present tense or present indefinite plus future tense. Let me make it clear by giving example. Number 1, if you want, I will help you. Notice the if clause, the tense of the clause is present, if you want, and I will help you. The main clause, the tense of the main clause is future indefinite tense. In the second sentence, you will become sick if you play in the rain. Here, the main clause comes first and it is in future tense, and the if clause is in present indefinite tense. Number 3, if you work hard, you will prosper in life. Here, the tense of the if clause is in present tense and the tense of the main clause is in future indefinite tense. Students, in this slide, I have tried to make the structure of first conditional sentence clear with shapes. Look at the screen. This is the if clause and it is the condition of the sentence, and this is a subordinate or the dependent clause, and the tense of the if clause must be in present indefinite tense, and this is the main clause where lies the result of the condition of the if clause, and this is also the principal clause of a sentence, and the tense of this main clause must be in future indefinite tense. Students, by now you have come to know about the structure of first conditional sentences. That is, in if clause part we use present indefinite tense, and in the main clause part we use future indefinite tense. But the structure of first conditional sentence is not always same or always fixed. There are some possible variations in the structure of first conditional sentences. Let's have a look. First one, if plus present plus may or might. That means in the if clause section, the tense is present tense, but to express possibility of the action, you may use may or might in main clause instead of future indefinite tense. Example, if the driver is not smart enough, there might or may be an accident. Notice in the main clause, we did not use there will be. We have used there might or may be an accident to express possibility. Number 2, if plus present plus may or can in case of permission and ability. In this structure, you can use present indefinite tense in the if clause section, but to express permission or ability, you can use may or can instead of will. Example, if you are ready, you may start the machine. Number 3, if plus present plus must, should, or any other expression of command, request, or advice. That means in if clause section or part, you can use present indefinite tense, but in the main clause, you can use must, should, or any other expression of command or request. Example, if you have the book, would you lend it? Students, in our previous slide, we saw some variation in the structure of the main clause. Now, I have some examples where you see variation in the structure of the if clause. The tense of the if clause is not always in present indefinite tense. It may be, or in some cases, it may be in present continuous tense or in present perfect tense. Let's have a look. In the first example, if plus present continuous, if he is starting a business, he will succeed. Notice in the if clause section, I have used present continuous tense to indicate a future action, but the structure of the main clause is in future indefinite tense. In the second sentence, if plus present perfect, if he has not done this, he will not be held responsible. Notice here in the if clause section, I have used present perfect tense, but in the main clause, I have used future indefinite tense. These are some variations of the if clause. Students, here are some sentences for exercise. These sentences are the example of zero conditional and first conditional sentences. Now, go through the lesson very carefully and solve the problem of your own. Well, the students, that's all for today. In my next class, I will discuss the rest on conditional sentences. Till then, stay safe and stay at home. Thank you very much for listening.